Welcome to Speak as One. I'm Julie Correa. Today we have with us Amy Edwards from the Amy Edwards Show. Hello, Amy. How are you?
Hello, Julie. I'm doing great. And I'm so happy to be here today and have a conversation around this with you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And I just have to say, I love your show, which is how we met.
Yep.
I was on your show and now you're here. Can you tell our audience a little bit about the Amy Edwards Show and what you do?
Yes, and I highly recommend that episode with you. You were so forthcoming and open about your own mental health journey. And I found it so valuable and inspiring. So thank you again for doing that. Yeah. And my show is all about transforming our life to become our best self through better habits, mindset shifts, and building that foundation that can help us in times of struggle, which we're all going to have because we're human.
We are. We're going to have them. And it doesn't matter who you are.
If you're human,
you're going to have them.
Yes.
And it's just trying to understand maybe better coping skills when you do have those moments. How do we avoid hitting a total rock bottom? You know, how can we come up with different ways? And, you know, I feel like that's why your podcast and what we're trying to do here as well is like, what are different ways that we can do to handle these struggles a little more grace maybe.
Yeah. And, you know, there's something around that. If you do hit rock bottom, can you give yourself grace around that? Change your inner dialogue to something that's like, okay, now you know what that's like, rather than beating yourself up,
that's
you know?
Right.
And those are just little baby step things that I've had to work on throughout my life. I'm a ruminator. And so I've had to learn to break those neural pathways and those cycles of beating myself up when I did hit those points, you know, and like, because sometimes you're just going to have those.
Yeah.
But can we just look at it and say, oh, now I get to remember what the rest is like, and I get to come back up and be kinder to myself.
Yeah, and I think what people don't realize if you haven't gone through something like that yet is what comes out on the other side is actually quite beautiful if you allow it to be.
You get stronger. Look at you. You built a business and you're helping other people, right?
Yeah.
And me too. I built a podcast and I built something that I'm able to look at and say, I'm proud of this. If it even helps one person, it's so worth it. You know, my boyfriend has been through recovery, which I know we're going to talk about.
Right.
And he went on Rogan's, right? And he had some trouble sharing his story because he was really nervous about it. But he came to that conclusion, like, if this helps one person, and it did. And that's such a great perspective in life. If it helps one person, it's worth it. You know, like you may have fallen, but if you can find the voice to tell your story, like with Speak as One, it's going to ripple out and you never know who it's going to affect and help.
It's so true. I remember that moment because I was still feeling some shame around going to trauma, you know, treatment and just that I wasn't drinking anymore. I was just still living in a little bit of that shame. And there was a point during COVID when I just saw all these people struggling. I thought, if my story helps one person, I don't care. I'm going to do this. And that was exactly what I thought. One person.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so important. And
it is.
We just tend to forget that sometimes,
we do.
know, and you're like, how many people like this post or things like that. But it's good to just have that like as a grounding space to come back to.
Yeah.
And remember, like, you know what? My voice is important and my story is important and it's unique and it could help just one person, just somebody listening to this. And, you know, there's just that trust and belief that things are happening as they should. And it's all, you know, led in the way it's supposed to go.
That's right. That's right. So would you share with us some of the things, maybe some of the challenging points in your life that got you to where you are today?
Sure.
Help people, you know, that are maybe struggling with things to understand that, you know, one, we want people to feel like they're not so alone. Like you have gone through things. It's not all of a sudden like you're Amy Edwards and it's here, you know?
Right. And, you know, people look at you from the outside and they think something like they probably could look at us. Well, we look like we're sisters anyway, but they can look at us, you know, and think they've got it all together. And I had a weird experience the other day where I was filming one of my courses, or I was editing it actually, and I was looking at myself on the screen and I just kind of got moved because I thought this person looks like they have it all together. And I thought, you know, I'm still working on it. I'm still doing the practices. I'm still building and trying to get better every day. Yeah. And sometimes I have little setbacks, you know, 2 step forward, 1 step back, you know. But it was just a funny awareness. And so I think when we can get aware that people are going to look at us and think, maybe not the truth. And anytime that we can get that connection built a little bit stronger to where we say, hey, I go through it too, know, and what you're seeing on the screen or in social media is just a slice of the whole person, and putting your best foot forward in a lot of cases too. Right. And so I'm divorced twice, right? You've been through a divorce. And so that is, I think, on the scale of stresses, that's a really high one, right? It's like death, divorce. Moving.
I've moving out of the category because I've moved about 20 times in my life. And I'm like, divorce tops it.
Yes.
Over and over and over.
Yeah. Divorce it's really, really challenging. And I think, it's rare when you hear the story that we had like an amicable, peaceful divorce and we're still friends. I know you guys are still friends. And it's just, it's a tough thing to go through and to push yourself through whichever side you fall on. And that, I never imagined myself as someone divorced. And I have a child from each marriage as well. And so thinking about their well-being, thinking about my own well-being, I had some really dark moments. In the first one, I was 33, I believe, 33, 34. And my daughter was very young. She was 2. And I had some really low moments. And there was a day when I remember it was just so hard and so negative. And I thought she'd be better off without me. The world would be better off without me. I mean, like we all have those, well, no, not we all, but I did have those moments. And I expressed to someone like, I had bought some Drano because I had a clogged sink. And I was like, I just want to drink the Drano. Like, I just want to can I cuss? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Bleep it out.
Please, no,
and I was like, I just want to, check out. And sounds like a horrible way to go. But anyway, sometimes it's access to what's right there, And he said, what if you just don't drink it today? And I was like, he goes, can you do that? Can you just not drink it today? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then the next day I felt better. And so I think when we have those dark moments, sometimes taking it day by day is just the best advice, because life just seems too big sometimes. And you think, I can't handle it for the rest of these, how many more years? And so just being able, that AA saying one day at a time is so good because you just can handle it for today.
That's right.
For this moment. And we just put all this pressure on ourselves. And so that stuck with me because I thought, okay, can I just handle it for today? And like, what's today like? And knowing that it's a cloud, that there's a blue sky in there, and this is a cloud. Maybe it's a big cloud, but it does blow over. It might take a little time. And that's something that Ram Dass talks about. I'm a big Ram Dass fan. And so I think gaining that perspective just takes experience and time. And so that is one thing. If someone's having a dark moment, I would say, can you just, maybe today, like maybe this hour, maybe today's too much. Maybe like for the next hour. I don't know.
That's right.
And like, if you can make it that hour or the next minute, then maybe you can make it the next one. And then maybe you can actually get a good night's sleep and eat something healthy and hydrate a little bit. And maybe you feel better tomorrow, with those foundational principles. So divorce was a big teacher for me. And it is something that launched me into the habits and practices that I do now. Because my second divorce was very difficult. And I never saw it coming, like the challenges that it would be. But I left both marriages too. I was the leaver. And I have struggled with guilt around that, shame around that, owning that to my children. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And trying to navigate being honest with them, but not too honest. Like I don't want to badmouth anyone, and just choosing the high road is challenging. And so 2018 was a pivotal year for me. That's the year I left. And that's the year I moved in here. And I had a lot of work to do, and I had to recognize that. And my voice is such a big thing for me. I have 3 decades of radio experience. I've been an independent rock and roll musician. I'm a podcaster, and it's all about voice and expressing myself and expressing my story. And I got sick that year too, because I think it was not only physical, but it was also a manifestation of not using my voice in the way that I needed to express healthy boundaries and what I needed and my own needs. I didn't even know what my needs were, really. And so I lost my voice. I got sick and I lost my voice. I couldn't sing. I was putting out an album that year, my double album, Magic. Couldn't sing, couldn't talk sometimes. And I had a lot of healing to do. My mind was in a dark space, but I started to learn to strengthen my voice and tell my story and be honest about it. And that's what Speak as One is all about. When we find those spaces to express our voice and to open up and to find a vulnerability, that's where magic happens. So it's funny that I put out an album called Magic then too, which was about transformation. But too, I had to find my own magic. And that's part of everything that I do. Is my TikTok is called The Magic Babe, because I know from my own lived experience that we have magic inside us, and it's always there, whether it's a teeny tiny baby spark or a flame, that it's there to help us move into our own power. So 2018 was pivotal. I did some plant medicine journeys. I started saying yes to things that came my way and embracing those to heal. I met a community of women that surprised and delighted me. I said yes to becoming a Reiki master and learning Reiki. And I moved into more healing spaces. I ended up saying yes to, along the way, ketamine infusions, which helped reset my neural pathways. And very grateful for those. It's not for everybody, but it did help me.
Me too.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of modalities that we can embrace. I did 5-MeO DMT, which is called Bufo, and that's a really intense psychedelic that's very short, and it's it's terrifying to me. But I did that too. You've done that too? Oh yeah. So
Twice.
Oh, me too.
But I mean, it's, I say this and I want people to know that I was still getting help along with doing these treatments.
Me too.
Still, I think that they're so important and they can be very helpful for people. And I also think that make sure you have guidance along the way,
I do too. And integration is the part that makes it happen. It's like the space between the notes of the music, it's the way that we really do the healing. It's not in the medicine journey, it's after. So if you're going from one to another, maybe give yourself a pause. Right. And at least that's what I had to do. I had to stop and say, okay, it's time for me to integrate and really find out what that space is like if I just live my life.
Right. And the reason I say that is because I had a friend who didn't have a good experience, and she didn't have extra help along the way. Whether it's with a therapist or a spiritual leader or
even a friend,
somebody that you make sure that can kind of help you navigate those, what comes after that. Because sometimes the experience can be very intense.
Oh my God, yes. It was for me.
It was for me too. Yes.
Super intense. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I'll ever do it again.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. But it was a part of my healing journey. And so as I said yes to those, I really noticed that I was feeling better. My relationships improved. The divorce was final. It was just a matter of going further and getting uncomfortable into a space that expanded my comfort zone and helped me get to a better mental state, essentially.
And you got your voice back.
I did. I had to have surgery actually around the same time that I was doing Bufo and stuff. I had it's called a balloonoplasty, I think, or sinuplasty. And so they put these balloons in your sinuses and blow them up or something. Anyway, so I had to have that. It didn't heal right away. It took 3 months. Wow. And it was very frustrating for me not to be able to sing, not to be able to talk the way that I love to talk. And I take voice lessons every week because I don't sing as much anymore, but I still use my voice so much. And so that was a very frustrating time, but I had to just trust. And one day it just all clicked. It was very weird. And I had a moment where everything I just quit. I was still smoking some then, and I quit smoking. I really got into a healthier space, and everything just felt better. And I was like, maybe things are making progress. And my sinus is healed and my voice healed. And I was speaking up for myself better. And that was a really good time in my life. It was before the pandemic. And then as the pandemic hit, I was single and I really delved into self-love. Who knew? Everybody says love yourself, and turns out it's true.
It's true. Even in your darkest time, if you can just sit there and have compassion for that time, and really embracing all the things that we do. I've never, in my wildest dreams, ever thought that I would be able to love myself.
Really? Because, your wildest dreams, really?
Yes, because I had a critic that was so fierce my entire life.
Yeah.
I never thought it would have been possible. I mean, that critic was everything I did.
Where's that critic now?
Oh, it's like in the back seat of the car with the seatbelt on. Like, we're going to give you, and that's another way to love yourself, right? Like, hey, like I know that critic was a part of me that tried to help me get through life. So I want to show it some love.
Yeah.
But you can sit in the back seat now because I'm driving.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it really is a thing. And I think for so long people are like, self-love, what is all this stuff?
Yeah.
But it really is important work. And it can change your life.
And what you're describing is like that unconditional space where you're not judging it. You're not saying like, oh, I was, bad for having that person run the show or drive the car for so long. Instead, it's like, oh, you were trying to protect me and I can love who I was and it got me to this point. And it's, again, a matter of shifting that inner conversation or that inner monologue. And I won't even call it a dialogue. And so that was a huge part for me. It's my own head. It was so funny. I had a friend over here yesterday and we were kind of talking about this and she was like, our mind is a torture chamber. And it made me laugh so hard because it is. It's our own thoughts and our own minds. And I've discovered along the way that loving myself and having a strong mirror practice where I look in the mirror and I say I love you to myself. Like how many people aren't saying I love you to yourself. I hadn't. Really, I hadn't until a few years ago, until I started saying it out loud to myself in the mirror. And which is weird when you first start doing it. It's weird.
It's weird because you've spent so many years of your life not doing it.
Right.
And so anything that's new to your programming is going to feel completely foreign.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can say it to other people so easily, but to ourselves, we're like withholding. And so how can we give that love to ourselves that we're so willing to give to others? And I had to step into that and in every way. And it made me so much happier. I mean, there's just no question. And since then, I've just gotten so strong in those practices that they're like brushing my teeth. They come naturally to me. I don't go a day without them. Or if I do, I notice. And yesterday is a perfect example. I didn't do them in the morning and my mind just went all crazy. And I shouldn't use the word crazy. I should just say my mind spun off, right? And so it got the better of me. And then I thought, well, I haven't done my practices today. I'm off my game. And so I tried to step into that awareness of okay, this is what happens. And so today I was like, oh, I'm doing them because I'm not going to have those down moments again like I did yesterday. And so I just stepped into them this morning like usual.
So what are your practices with saying I love you in the mirror? Are there other ones?
Yes, every day I try to get up a little bit early and have just some time quiet by myself. I have a basket that I keep some books that I'm reading. So I try to read a little bit. I journal just a little bit. I have a list of questions that I ask myself. So I keep it pretty simple because I don't know, I'm lazy and I don't want to write for too long. And so they're directed questions where I say how do I want to feel today? Who do I want to be today? What do I want to give today? What do I want to receive today? Name today's energy. And sometimes I say what I want to let go of too. And so I just kind of do those directed questions. I derive those from Gabby Bernstein. And answered those. I do gratitude. I keep a notebook and I write down 5 things that I'm grateful for every day. I read a daily devotional from Al-Anon. I've started writing sentences of my goals. I review my goals too every day. I review vows that I wrote to myself when I turned 50. So those are all just sitting down, kind of reading practices that I do. And hopefully I remembered everything. And then in front of the mirror, I have a mirror practice that I do every day. And I do some Reiki on myself. But you can just imagine sending yourself good energy. You don't have to be a Reiki master. Just like open yourself up to good energy, take a few breaths, look at yourself in the mirror. And I say to myself, just for today, I'm at peace. Just for today, I will work easy. Just for today, I show appreciation and gratitude. Just for today, I'm kind to all living things, including myself. And then I say, I love you to myself. And today I gave myself a little pep talk, actually, which sometimes it just derives into whatever you need.
Yeah, I love the just for today.
Just for today. Don't get too ahead of myself.
Yeah.
And so today I did some affirmations. I looked in the mirror and just was like, you're doing great. I kind of just gave myself a little pep talk because I needed it. Everybody needs it sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then in the shower, sometimes I turn it all the way to cold. I'll say some affirmations in there. So I like to incorporate a little bit of a cold practice most days, not always. I keep some affirmations on my bathroom mirror so I can see them. And I also meditate, and I'll take some time to just tune into my meditation. Sometimes I'll pray a little bit too, and just tap into that trust and that divinely led thing. So that's been something that I've really been working on, and that's most of it. Then on top of that is like hydration and paying attention to my relationships and things like that. So I understand that all of that isn't maybe feasible for somebody right away. Yeah, those are practices that I've built over the years. I used to keep a list of them, but I don't need a list anymore. I just do it.
Well, and I find if you just start with one thing and start small, and it's not about getting overwhelmed. It's, what works best for you. And I mean, for the longest time, it was just, I could wake up and pray, and that was it. But I really want to incorporate meditation. And so then it's like, okay, now I feel like I can incorporate meditating. And, and so your morning practice grows the longer you do it, but just starting small with just a few minutes every day can be such a game changer.
Totally. And I'm not perfect by any stretch. I, still look at my phone way too much in the morning. I don't want to judge it, actually. I just still look at my phone in the morning, and that's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm
with you on that.
Yeah. I mean,
and I also have to try and stay very clear from perfectionism, because that used to rule my life. If I didn't feel like, if I wasn't perfect, like if I would have beaten myself up about the phone, like you can't even do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like all the studies show not to look at your phone in the morning. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I'm looking at my phone and I like it.
Yeah. Or just don't even judge it, right? Yeah, I'm looking at my phone. Like, don't say I like it. Don't say I don't like it. Just you look at your phone, right? Dropping those judgments and like not getting our mind in the way. That's
exactly.
Like I'm playing with that right now. That's why that came up for me. Like I'm in a space of that. Like, okay, maybe just let it be, Yeah. And then there's an awareness around it. Like if you notice that it's not serving you, if you notice that you're comparing and it's putting you in a negative space because you happen to scroll and see people that are doing stuff and you start beating yourself up, shut it down, right?
I usually have to do it because it takes me so long to wake up in the morning. I mean, it's like I'm really in a fog, and when I see the light, so it's like one of the things is like happy light and bringing light into your eyes that kind of has me wake up. And honestly, just to kind of read a little bit of the news or just to like get my mind awake before I actually go and pray and meditate really helps me like wake up. Because when I have the tendency to be a little more sleepy, my mind actually spins and I'm not recognizing it. And when I meditate, I like to feel like I can come back a little bit easier.
Interesting. Well, that's good. That's good for people to hear.
Yeah. I really, but I don't try to get on social media and stuff like that. I try to keep it with just like, okay, I like to look at skim that little.
Yeah.
News email or whatever.
I think it's important to find what works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we talked about this on the show too, and just finding what works for you and not being so rigid. I think that I went through a phase where I was really rigid. It's that perfectionist tendency. Like I must check all these off my list. And so letting go of that rigidity, like I have to do this because, I don't know, Andrew Huberman says so, and so letting go of those things and just saying, this is what works for me. And I can tell my mental state is thriving in this space.
Right.
Rather than like declining or taking a hit. And
well, another thing I want to recognize that you said is, telling yourself like, great job and highlighting you in the mornings because, it's so easy for us to do that with our children. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, we can forget that we are really doing a good job.
Yeah.
And to say that to ourselves.
Yeah. Be your own friend.
Yeah. Be your own friend.
Be your own friend. Be your own parent. Be your own cheerleader. Mm-hmm. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. Go ahead and tell yourself those things. It's a practice for me. It's a practice. All of this is a practice. It's not something that you like just do and then you're done. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, now I feel better because I did it one day. It's a building practice. And then you start to remember it. It starts to feel good. You start to like get some momentum. And so this is a practice. Like it's a practice to move into being your own friend, to really loving yourself unconditionally, to telling yourself, you're doing great. You're killing it.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't always even have to totally believe it. Because maybe there's your inner critic in there in the back seat going like, oh, come on, throwing their peanut gallery comments in. Yeah. And instead you can just say, no, this is what I would say to a friend. So I'm going to be my own friend right now. Mm-hmm. Simple as that.
Yeah. And to have fun, I think that's one of the things that's been hard for me to learn, because I've struggled with mental health issues so long in my life, and like depression and anxiety were at the forefront for so many years. And now it's just learning to also have fun. It's like, because the work that we're doing, if we let it, every morning it can become, checking off our list and we need to do this but to really try to embrace it and enjoy it.
So you're having fun right now?
Yeah.
You are? Good. See? That's good. It's like this enjoying the process thing and like really being in the moment and allowing it to be fun.
Yeah. But it's a practice. Like it really is a practice for me to learn to have fun. And, some days I'm better at it than others,
And like allowing ourselves too. Like allowing ourselves to like go like, this can be fun right now. We don't have to be like, when is this over? And when am I doing the next thing? That takes us out of the present moment. And that's not actually a fun space to be in.
This is the most favorite thing of what I do.
Really?
Is being able to talk to people. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It is for me too.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it so much. Mm-hmm. So you were, practicing all these different things during COVID.
Yeah. I got real diligent practicing things during COVID.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then where did your life kind of lead you through COVID?
It just kept opening up in a self-love space. Mm-hmm. And I really built the foundation of these practices then and really allowed myself to like fall in love with myself. I asked myself, like, what if this is it? What if you never meet someone that is your partner? Are you going to have fun dating or are you going to hate it? Are you going to, be lonely at night, or are you just going to hug yourself and love yourself so much that you're happy? And I wanted to be in that second space. And so that's what I worked toward. And it's the ironic, outcome always, or that paradox where you love yourself so much that things just start to fall into place. And that's when you're able to receive love more. And so I was teaching myself that essentially. To receive love more by giving it to myself. And those are incredible spaces to explore if no one ever has. And I mean, I'm 50 years old. And so, it takes time. Like I didn't do this until I was in my late 40s. So I don't want anybody to feel like they're behind, because then that's another way of beating yourself up. Like it takes time, and that's okay. You're on your path. It's all right. And I then ended up joining like a mastermind group that was about self-development. And once I got into that, it was pushing me to heal in some new ways. And I was extremely grateful for that. I ended up meeting my partner now, who will have a discussion around his recovery. And that was just a surprise. And it's been a huge learning journey being in this relationship and really navigating the self-love aspect and not losing that when you're in a relationship and still putting yourself first, which probably sounds strange to people sometimes because you're like, oh, shouldn't you put, your kids first? Yeah. Shouldn't you put your relationship first or God first? I believe that we are connected to God, and when we put ourselves first, we are putting that relationship first. And so, it's putting that self-care first and knowing that everything spills out from there. And, you've heard that like fill your cup so you can fill others. But what if you just fill your cup so much that it's just overflowing so it's naturally filling others?
I have to say, I think that, I've always loved people, but the more I have learned to love myself, my relationships feel so much more full. I feel like I'm a better friend, a better parent, a better daughter, and it feels natural. So I just agree with what you're saying. I think that when we put ourselves first, when we can take that time to really dive into who we are, get to know us, get to love us, everything else just comes so much more naturally. Mm-hmm. The friendships, any relationship that you're in.
And I mean, everything says this, and then we don't do it. And it's like so like, it doesn't cost a thing. I mean, it is literally like right there for us. And we still, our own minds will hold us back. Mm-hmm. That person in the back seat will grab the wheel, and it's just like, no.
And it doesn't, once again, it doesn't have to take long. And it can just be waking up 20 minutes early before, and just say that 20 minutes today, this is for me.
Yeah. My practices don't take long.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't want to say I rush through them, but I don't spend an inordinate amount of time doing all this.
Right.
I mean, maybe during the pandemic I kind of did because what else was there to do? I was working and we had time on our hands.
Walking 4 miles every day during the pandemic, and now I'm like, if I can get in 30 minutes, I'm good.
That's right. Same here, actually. And so that led me into a whole different avenue of learning as I got into that relationship. And it's just moving into a new space of life. And we're never done learning, right? And there's always going to be something new that we can learn. And so how can we get there with grace and allow it, right? And so that's kind of surprised me. I'm still learning, and who knows what else I'm going to learn.
Well, it sounds like you were in such a space of learning to love yourself and really embracing being single, and then you meet somebody in this same space, right?
Yeah.